welcome back to another video. This is another video in my state recipes series where I am trying to cook a different food that best represents every one of the 50 states. If you have not seen any of these videos before, I highly recommend you click the playlist in the description box. I have a ton of videos on these. This is state number 41, I think. So I'm very close to the end at this point. This is going to be the last video from my mom's kitchen. Unless maybe in the future I end up cooking a state recipe at her house again, who knows? And the next state recipe that we cook will then finally be in this kitchen, which that is filmed. That'll be up here pretty soon. Links to the recipe that we were following and the history that I looked up for brisket will both be in the description box below, along with the playlist for all of the other states that I have cooked for up until this point, along with a list of states that I have not cooked for yet. So if you know of any of those states that have a really well-known food, leave that in the comments below. As you saw in the title of this video, we are cooking for Texas, and we are making brisket. Hi, we are still currently in my mom's house because as we are filming this, we are in the process of packing to get into a new home that we have bought. So this is kind of a little flashback, sort of throwback to the past. Hello. For Texas, we are making brisket. We are going to be smoking it with the smoker that we own. If you watch my vlogs, you'll know that we bought a smoker several months ago, and I think in the original vlog that I posted about buying that, I said that we bought it with the intention of making brisket for Texas. So here we are, finally doing it. But this is the brisket that we have because you can see it right here. It is a very, very small one because we know we don't want to spend so much money on a massive one if we don't know exactly how to cook it yet. So we're starting with this small one. We had watched a video online. I had looked up different blogs and everything about how the best way is to go about cutting it and cooking it and prepping it. And seasoning wise, we just have some coarse salt and pepper that we're going to grind all over on there. We also have somebody working outside, so ignore background noises. And we were going to get it out to trim it, but then I noticed on the package, it says trimmed beef brisket flat. So we might not need to. You can go ahead and open it if you want. Okay. We're gonna check it out, but we did watch a video that would explain how to trim it if we needed to, so we were fully prepared to do that, but we might not need to actually. That looks pretty good actually. Yeah, so okay, we don't need to trim it then.
I don't think we're going to, no.
Cool. I'll explain. The way they had said to trim it was you're supposed to have, like if you use a whole brisket, then you have this part which is the flat, and then there's another part I think that would go right here actually attached. That is like an extra part that the grain switches. So we would have to trim, you can get some of the fat off the top maybe?
Maybe, give it a go.
So that you want to trim all of the fat off of the top, and then you're supposed to kind of square it off and like round out the sides, which just looks pretty good. And then the fat that's on the bottom, you want to get pretty even, which this is in good shape, so we don't need to do that much to it. Danton is just taking a little extra fat off of the top. Yeah, that looks good. I don't know if I'd actually do anything to that at all, the bottom part.
I think so.
Cool. Well, that saves us a lot of time. We don't have to do that step, but I will link the blog that we were watching and I was reading into in the description as far as like the recipe and things go. But yeah, now we're just going to go ahead and add some salt and pepper to completely cover it. I did see where some recipes were saying they used garlic powder as well, but I was also then reading comments of different posts being like, no, salt and pepper is the traditional, just that. So we're just gonna keep it salt and pepper. We might add garlic powder if we really like this and we make it in the future, but for now, salt and pepper. All right, we got the smoker up to the temperature that we need it to be, so Dan is just dropping the brisket onto the grates with the fat side down. And yes, this is a voiceover because our neighbor was over working on our garage and I was self-conscious and didn't want to like fully film and talk with him right there. that is on the grates, and now we have these two thermometers here. This one that Dan just put in the meat, we are keeping an eye on it until it gets up to 165 degrees, which I will talk about later. And this one, excuse you, and this one is the one that gauges the temperature in the actual smoker, so we know if it's getting too hot or too cold, and we can adjust accordingly. All right, I won't do a full voice over this clip, but I'm basically still voicing over what the footage you're about to see. The internal temperature of the meat reached 165 degrees, and when it gets to that point, it starts doing what's called stalling, where the fat starts melting to the point where it cools off the outside of the meat, and it cools it off enough that the inside cannot cook anymore, and the temperature will not rise for multiple hours. So when that happens, what you want to do is you want to wrap it in either tinfoil or butcher paper. The instructions that I was following recommend butcher paper, but tinfoil works instead. It's just supposedly not as good, but we had tinfoil, so we were going to use it. So you wrap it up, and then after you wrap it, you want to make sure that there's no spots that can leak or anything. You want it nice and sealed in there. Then you put the brisket back in the smoker, but you put it fat side up this time, and you return the meat thermometer back into the fattest part of the meat, close it, and continue to let it cook now until it reaches a temperature of 202 degrees. All right, it is finally time to eat. It's later than we expected it to be. Basically, this was stalling at a much later time than what we thought, so we wrapped it up like you saw to help avoid the stall or shorten the stall, and it decided not to stall until it got to like 183 degrees, which is way later than what it usually does, and then it just would not go any higher for like 2 hours. 189 is the highest we got it to before we were like, we're calling it quits. It's 8:30 at night. We need to eat food. So it's been in this cooler with a towel on it, which you can take that off now if you want, for the past half hour or so, resting, because it still needs to rest so all of the juices can kind of redisperse. You can start taking it out and getting it ready. And now we are going to cut it into the slices so we can actually eat it. And there is apparently a very specific way to cut it, so we will have to try our best to cut it in the right direction. I don't know. It smells really good.
Yeah.
Oh, that smells so good.
Yes. So this is, fat side down.
Yeah. The earliest mention of brisket being served by itself is in 1910 by two different Jewish grocery stores called Nod Burnett and Watson's Grocery. It seemed as though no one else offered or thought it was worthwhile to offer brisket on their menu until the late 50s, when Black's Barbecue claimed to be the first. Taste test.
All right.
What do we want to taste? Do you want to taste an end piece or a middle piece?
Let's taste the middle piece, I think.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. The flavor is good. Whether it's the cut of it or just the way that we did it, it still seems a little dry in the middle. Mm-hmm. But it's still very tasty.
The flavor is really good, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think a little barbecue sauce.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'd help it out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said, we were running into some issues during the actual smoking process. So it's possible that we messed something up along the way. It's possible the cut of meat was just not preferable because, as you saw in the beginning, it was already trimmed and everything for us.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, once you get the outside bits and the fattiness of the juice of that, then it's really good.
That's really good, yeah.
Yeah, and
But-
just the salt and pepper is still really nice.
Yeah, salt and pepper is really, really good. Definitely a little dry. We may attempt this in the future again and throw in a little clip of us redeeming it.
We'll see.
We'll see, but I'm still gonna give it a pass because it is still pretty good.
Yep. Yeah, Texas.
There was our attempt at cooking brisket for Texas. I know we did not do it justice. Since we've made that, we have not really had an opportunity to try it again. If you could leave some suggestions in the comments below. I know we definitely smoked it wrong. Even just watching the footage back when I was editing that part, I was thinking like, there's definitely things we would be doing different now that we just didn't know about smoking meat then. Again, like I said, the links to the recipe that we followed, that blog, and to the history that I looked up for the brisket will be in the description box below, along with a list of states that we have not cooked for yet. So there is still, I think, 7 or 8 states that I have not cooked for yet. Look at that list. Let me know if you have a suggestion of a food that is really, really well known in that state, and maybe I'll cook it. I hope you have a great day. Consider subscribing if you enjoy this content, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!